Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome to another great episode of Foxborough Central. My name is Bob Hickey. I am your host for today's episode of your community interest program, where we talk to the people about the events and meet the organizations that make Foxborough truly the gem of Norfolk County. Today, I am honored to be joined by Ed Lawton. Ed, how are you doing today, sir?
Fine, thank you.
I am pleased to have you join us because, first of all, farming is what America was built on, and to the point, there seems to be a growing attack mentality on farming, and what we have in Foxborough is a hidden gem that has occasionally been in the news for good things and occasionally been in the news because people want to impose a regulation. And I sometimes think it's just that folks don't understand farming anymore because we as a community or as a society have moved on, so to speak. But simple truth is everybody needs food. Food comes from somewhere, and farming is a piece of what we do. And you and your family have been running Lawton's Family Farm since we were a country?
Not exactly me personally, but yes. Thank you very much for having us here, Bob. You're quite right. Agriculture, or people in agriculture, are in a minority, and some people don't think of their roots. It's not quite as many people just off the boat as there used to be. So I'm pleased to be here to explain some of the things that agriculture does here in Foxborough.
Well, and in Foxborough, with the I don't want to say demise, but I'll say that with the shrinking, the contracting of farm space development, of course, land becomes a valuable commodity, and they're not making any more land, last I saw. And so when development happens, farmland is usually gone because, in all honesty, it's a lot easier just to sell the land and get a good return on it than it is to work it. And farming is tough. And I grew up working on a chicken farm, and no way does it compare to all the work you and your family do, but I've tasted it enough to know that it is hard work.
Yeah. Well, you're quite right. But agriculture in Massachusetts, in Foxborough, has evolved. No longer the big expanses available for animal agriculture. I basically have 26 acres at the farm. I do some private land around Foxborough for haying, some conservation land. Massachusetts agriculture has evolved into more retail sales as opposed to acres of carrots or cabbage that goes all to market. You have the Law family on Mill Street. You have Lyons Greenhouse with a tremendous amount of retail and wholesale of flowers. You've got 2 Christmas tree farms in Foxborough, and you still have a number of small enterprises with livestock.
And with that, we come to Lawton's Family Farm. So the Lawton family is? Who comprises the family these days?
It's myself, Ed Lawton, my wife Nancy Lawton, and Teresa Lawton.
And she is the one, and for those of you who are fans of the Foxborough Reporter, you've read that the Lawton's Family Farm has been in the news of late. There's some initiatives by our local Board of Health to impose local control over your main product, or one of your main products, which is raw milk. We'll call raw milk. It's milk that is not pasteurized. It is processed how? How does raw milk come to be?
Basically, we start with healthy cows. Should any cow not be healthy, we isolate that out and perhaps discard the milk or use that for calves. It's a very conscientious, it has to be, to ensure no outside contamination. Raw milk, as opposed to pasteurized, does not have the heating process. Milks from whatever species generally have an enzyme in there that aids in the digestion of the product. When milk is pasteurized, that enzyme is destroyed. So milk is less digestible than pasteurized milk, and in some people's digestive systems, they really need that enzyme to aid in digestion. Hence, if they don't have that enzyme and they need that enzyme, they are classified as lactose intolerant. I'm not saying all lactose intolerant people can drink raw milk, but many that have been classified lactose intolerant can.
That's very interesting. I did not know that. And something else I also did not know until I started looking at this was that raw milk is regulated, and it is a product that has oversight. There's it's just not poured out of the cow and poured into a bottle and given to the customer.
You're correct.
A little more work that goes into it than that.
There's only like about 140 dairy farms left in all of Massachusetts, and there's only 20 that qualify to be certified raw milk. So the farms that sell it are held to a higher standard. Actually, the standard for raw milk is the same as post-pasteurized milk. I might get killed for saying this, pasteurized milk is not sterile.
It's interesting. So maybe some misinformation going on. And of course, the focus of this program is to talk about local farming, your connection with the community, volunteer work, all the things that make Lawton's Family Farm an integral piece of Foxborough and what we are as a community. But I did want to touch on that because that is not only in the news, but it's another indication of the assault that farming is under from people that maybe don't understand or maybe want to pasteurize the community, if you will. There's many folks who are against neighbors having a chicken or two because it causes smell. And there's a great sign, looking in the newspaper, and I know this is probably elsewhere also, but there's a house for sale next to a farm, so the farmer put up a sign saying, if you buy this house, be aware that cows poop smells, and odors waft, so just be aware. And it's one of those things where I think people in not only farming, but noise, you're making noise, you're running your leaf blower. Who cares? It's called the world, that things happen. So it's maybe a pasteurization of society, if you will.
Yes, some people move to Foxborough and they buy a piece of the country, but they kind of forgot they bought some of the country air. I'd like to apologize to the citizens of Foxborough. Sometimes I'll be transporting my equipment from field to field throughout town, and I do drive less than 20 miles an hour. It's the way I get about. It's the way I've been getting about for 40 years.
You seem to have made it thus far. You made it to our studio for this interview, so.
Yes.
As Barney Fife said, you don't got to go all lickety-split through the center of town. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that.
I mean, agriculture should coexist with citizens. I mean, every time you take a bite of food, somebody was farming that food someplace.
Well, to that end, let's talk about some, and by the way, folks, Lawton's Family Farm, also going under the name of Oak Knoll Farm, which is the name for the raw milk product. Is raw milk the correct term? I say raw milk, and I don't want to be saying something that isn't absolutely accurate. What do you officially call the product?
Well, it's really called raw milk. A lot of people that consume raw milk call it real milk as opposed.
Okay. So
because it's full of all its enzymes.
Well, I will cover
vitamins.
everything, and we'll call it real raw milk, and that way we'll be
Excellent.
sure to cover everybody. Lawton's Family Farm is up at 70 North Street here in Foxborough. You have a stand. I was in there yesterday. Very, very user-friendly. You go in, and of course Ed came right out, but nice products. You have your dairy, and then you sell a few other local produce. I saw Massachusetts maple syrup in there.
Yes, that is made by somebody that I met years ago when I was in 4-H, when I went to a state dairy show, and through 4-H we became friends, and there was a period of 20 years where we didn't see each other, but we've through volunteer work we've gotten together, and he lives out in Blandford, Mass, and I buy some of his surplus maple syrup and bring it east to sell to my customers.
Well, that might be something that folks at home who are getting ready for the holidays or birthday, depending upon when you watch this, there are some gift ideas up there, in addition to the produce of the milk and also cheese. When we were doing a little talking yesterday, and I was convincing you in the wisdom of coming down here to the studio. I don't know if you can see through the window, but it's a little early in the morning here in Foxborough. Being a farmer, of course, you're up at 4 o'clock doing all those farming things. But when we were talking, you have quite a cheese production as well.
Yes, I'd like to step back a little bit about the maple. Not all maple syrup is made in Vermont. Massachusetts makes it. Not all cheese is made in Wisconsin. Massachusetts makes it. We have 21 cheesemakers in Massachusetts.
Really?
Some of them are set up near a farm, and most of them are at farms, whether they be dairy goat or dairy cow. And your question was?
Well, my question was, I was at your stand, and the milk and the cheese, had some cheese, took it home, and my daughter and I ate it right up. It was delicious. And so can we talk about that wonderful, wonderful product, your cheese?
Okay, we make two cheeses. We make the fromage blanc, which Bob is talking about. It's kind of like a ricotta.
With a hint of maple flavoring in it.
We have it in maple flavor, garlic, chive, lemon honey, and we have the traditional plain flavor. When we were going to start making cheese, we experimented perhaps on 15 different cheeses. Blue cheese is very difficult to get a consistent product. Edam we couldn't quite get down. We wanted to make a cheese that no other cheesemaker was already making. Mm-hmm. Cheddar, Gouda, Havartis, and there's over 100 cheeses made in Massachusetts by our Cheese Guild members. So we settled on fromage blanc and an Asiago. Many people are not familiar with fromage blanc.
I was not until yesterday.
So. It's a French, European type cheese. It's kind of like a breakfast cheese. We do get considerably more money for it here in Massachusetts than does Eastern Europe or Western Europe. In Europe, they make fresh cheeses that are unpasteurized. So we have to pasteurize this cheese in order to make it.
Okay.
Because of federal regulations. Our cheese plant is regulated under the Federal Pasteurized Milk Ordinance, administered by the State Department of Public Health. So we market that cheese at perhaps 20, 25 different farmers markets during the summer, and perhaps 8 different ones during the fall and winter. We also sell it at the farm stand at 70 North Street. The markets run from North Attleboro to Plymouth Plantation to Beverly and Billerica, several in the Boston area, and outlying towns.
Mm. The cheese, and so you had mentioned the fromage, and the other brand was, not brand, but the other type of cheese is?
Asiago, which is an aged raw milk cheese. It's aged over 60 days, which is required by federal USDA and FDA standards. It's believed when it's aged that long, all harmful bacteria that may have been in there would die out, mm-hmm. and you would become kind of like a monoculture. The culture of the cheese would be the bacteria.
Okay. So I keep hearing an overriding theme here is that it is a mature process, and it is regulated, and it's regulated in the state and federal level. And something I did not know, that you do have the pasteurization process in place for your cheese. So it's not that Lawton's Family Farm is against pasteurization. It's that you're making a product, it seems, that fills a niche market and that people seem to want. And so I guess hopefully in any consuming relationship, you're producing something people want to consume.
Yes, I'm sure you're talking about the raw milk. There are dozens of health benefits to raw milk that, let alone the difference in the flavor between raw milk and pasteurized milk. Pasteurization can occur at 145 in a vat for 35 minutes, or it can be ultra-high temperature pasteurized, which really changes the product.
And so, assuming a lot of your customers have a real intent of buying this product, because I understand that the real raw milk is a little bit pricier than what we're buying at the Garlic Farms or at the Stop and Shop.
It is.
It's a specialty product,
It is,
if you will.
and our milk is, we feed our cows on a grass-fed basis. We feed them no corn, no soy, no silages. This adds to the content of CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, and omega-3s, which if you look those up online, you will find many health benefits. Actually, you can go to the pharmacist and buy pills of omega-3s
yes, absolutely.
and CLA. And it goes through to the meat, grass-fed beef, and other species have those higher contents. So there is a movement about for real milk, real food. The lower the processing, you know, people go for whole wheat. They don't want the, white bread that's pulverized, bleached, and everything still sells. But people are going back to some of the lower processed, lower refined foods. It's kind of like a foodie movement. Somebody told me in one of these groups that she said, you should never eat anything that won't rot.
That's
And some of
that's an interesting way.
Some of the things on the shelves that are dry and unrefrigerated just don't rot.
Right. And I chuckle only because I've had similar conversations with folks, and I put it a little more simply, if I can't really understand what's in it, then I probably shouldn't be eating it. So very good, excellent. And this program is going to be not fast enough, but to talk about all the things I want to talk about. So my apologies to both you and the viewer at home for that in advance. You mentioned the internet. I do want to share that there is a website if folks want to learn more about the farm, the products that come from the farm, and the history of the farm, LawtonsFamilyFarm.com.
That is correct.
Excellent. LawtonsFamilyFarm.com. And also, as always, you can check us back out at fcatv.org, find the link under Foxborough Central, and then you can make your way back to LawtonsFamilyFarm.com. And the farm and the stand are located, and it's not a stand, it's quite the setup. And it was very nice to be able to go in there and see all the products displayed, including soap.
Yes.
I was surprised about the soap.
Soap is made by a lady down in Sheldonville that hobbies in it, and we buy some from that person, and she sells at farmers markets. That's how we got to meet her, and we buy some wholesale and we sell it there. We also sell custom roast coffee that guy hobbies in. He's in Franklin. He buys beans on raw coffee beans. He buys them at charity auctions. They're free trade items. They're very interesting coffees. They're coffees you couldn't buy at Stop and Shop or Whole Foods.
I was enjoying looking through those. I think that's what I was looking at when you came in. So, and then the final one, the eggs. I assume again from a local producer.
We buy eggs from two producers. One from Bellingham. They're free range. I don't know if they'll be going outside too much today, but they do have a dirt floor in their confinement area, and it's said that there's more vitamins and minerals in their eggs and so forth. And then the other producer is a cage-free, soy-free diet for their chickens. That would be Stamp Farm from Johnston, Rhode Island.
Wow. So it's all local. It's all Massachusetts and Little Rhode Island. And the The key here is that the things that you sell are not things that we would pick up normally. So it is well worth our while to visit and check out Lawton's Family Farm at 70 North Street. So part of the, we're going to go down a completely different path here, if you will, is farming. And my family and I, I grew up, Future Farmers of America, FFA, and doing all those things, working on the farm. So coming up here, there seemed to be an awful lot less. There's no FFA. There's not in Foxborough, and there's limited access. But we got hooked into the Sunny Rock 4-H farm down at Wardsbury Farm, and I understand you're also heavily involved with 4-H.
Not so much as I was before, but my wife and I are directors of 4-H Camp Farley in Mashpee. It does have a small 4-H program there. Non-4-H children may attend there. It has both day camp and overnight camp, certainly running just during the summer.
Well, now don't be modest, because you don't become a director or on the board of directors for a camp just by waking up one morning and saying, hey, I want to do this.
Well, yes, my wife and I have been volunteers in 4-H for perhaps 30, 35 years.
Okay, so now let's talk about that now, shall we?
Well, both my wife and I grew up in 4-H, so, if you add the 10 years of 4-H to the 35 years, there's some time there. And, certainly when we were youth, we were in just local and maybe some state competitions, but then as we got to be volunteers, we perhaps still were just local, and then when our children got in 4-H, we became volunteers, certainly out of the county and sometimes at state events. And
I also, and I believe everything ties back at some level. I really think that the 4-H is such a key educational tool as far as teaching the kids about farming, but also exposing them and others to the farming. And the Wardsbury Farm, I think, is such a key piece of our surrounding set of communities, because it exposes customers to farming and people who have kids that, unless you're going to go to a zoo and you see them very, I'm not going to use words pasteurized, but very sanitized. Zoos are sanitized. They're behind several fences. You don't touch, you don't feel. You barely even smell. And to go to a farm and to visit and touch and pet and learn and see the operational aspects of the farm, I think that is a great exposure, and it's a shame that more people don't have that opportunity. But when you do find these hidden gems around, people should take advantage of that opportunity and let their kids see and smell and even step in something, and it's okay. Nothing bad ever came of stepping in anything except for the carpet, but you should always take your shoes off before you go in the house anyway.
You're right, Bob. The Sunny Rock 4-H group is quite unique in that 4-H before, if you needed to be in the livestock part of 4-H, whether it be horses, sheep, or goats, or whatever, you generally kept your animal at home, and you were totally responsible for that twice a day, 365-day maintenance, which, if more youth had a responsibility like that, maybe more youth would grow up more responsible.
I was going to say there's a lot of benefit to that also, but but for many of us who don't have the land space or don't have
that's an excellent 4-H model. But 4-H isn't just livestock. I mean, it's science projects, it's public speaking, it's leadership. A lot of these things are trained. I mean, Bob, you grew up in FFA. They taught public speaking, they taught leadership, yep. They taught parliamentary procedure. These are tools that maybe not all people will use as they grow up and become adults, but they are tools, many of them are tools they will use even if they're an engineer or something.
Well, a lot of kids don't want to hear this, but there's a reason why you take all those classes in school. It's because you don't go to school to learn one thing. It's a well-rounded education, and I believe that 4-H and FFA and farming are key to a well-rounded community, a well-rounded education, and that's why I think at least many of us at home, and I hope share the belief that farming is an integral part of society and should not be pushed out of town just because it's not the sanitized version of what suburbia is. And I think a lot of people need to accept that it takes all types and all things and all pieces to make that puzzle complete. And I think farming is a big piece of our puzzle here in Foxborough.
Mayor Menino realizes that, and that he has gotten some things eased up in Boston such that some people can have a few chickens here and there, if you can imagine that. But all of Boston is not what you think of Chinatown and Beacon Hill.
Right.
There are many communities,
There are.
he calls them neighborhoods in Boston, that aren't 13 or 25-story buildings. And the town of Somerville, or city of Somerville, has developed a pamphlet, Farming in Urban Areas. Things are turning around from the fast-paced urbanization of many communities to realizing that agriculture is needed, whether it's rooftop gardens or a few chickens or something.
Well, the rooftop gardens are also they're also touted as a way to save energy and conserve energy and to rechannel rain runoff, and so there's many advantages that are ancillary to the agriculture aspect of it. We are so close to running out of time. I'm going to give you the last word, but let me do a little wrap up here about agriculture in Foxborough, farming in general, and Lawton's Family Farm in particular, lawtonsfamilyfarm.com at 70 North Street here in beautiful Foxborough, where you can get a lot of locally produced, I'm not going to call them one-offs, but I will call them specialty products. Real raw milk, caught them both, 2 types of cheeses locally produced, and of course other things that I'm going to have to go back and check out a little bit more, maple syrup, soap, good stuff. But the key here is that agriculture is alive, growing, and well. Lawton's Family Farm, last word.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope to see you at our farm stand. The farm stand is basically the barn with a 10 by 10 green door that slides open. When the door is open, we're open. When the door is closed, come back again sometime.
Doesn't get any better than that. And for those of you parents out there with children, just one final thing. One of my best opportunities with PAC 70 when I was leader with them was I took the group up and we got a tour of Lawton's Family Farm. It's a great operation, great for Foxborough, and I'm so glad to hear that things are thriving up there. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to come out to
Thank you very
visit
much.
with us, and I hope you'll take a look up there at 70 North Street as well. On behalf of all the volunteers at Foxborough Cable Access, I am Bob Hickey. You have a great day, Foxborough. Thank you.